Hey, welcome back to the Coin Box, and welcome to part 2 of my NGC unboxing. This time we're unboxing 33 Libertads. And if you've missed the first part of the video where we unboxed the Morgans and Peace Dollars, be sure and check that out. But in this video, I wanted to preface this video by saying that I like NGC, and I chose them over PCGS, not because I have anything against PCGS. They're a great company as well. But when it comes to Mexican coins and when it comes to Libertads, NGC offers a lot more varieties, and that's what I was looking for, trying to get these different Libertads attributed. And we'll talk about how that went, and we have a lot to cover in that regards. But I just wanted to preface this video by saying I don't have anything personal against NGC, and whatever I claim in this video is not because I have anything personal against them. I just believe there are some errors here which we're going to look at, and some important things that I believe Libertad collectors, more than NGC because they probably won't even watch this video, but Libertad collectors themselves need to know these things, and they're things that I didn't even know myself before sending these in, some of them, but based on the results and based on a few things I'm going to show you, so bear with me as we go through these, but several of these, the results will definitely surprise you. I recognize this is just a fraction of NGC's business. You know, they're not dedicated to Libertad variety attribution, Mexican coins. They grade and attribute varieties to many different countries around the world, coins from different countries around the world. And then when it gets to varieties themselves, I know there are small changes and small differences, but I believe that if it's a service they offer, if it's a service they charge for, they have to get it right. And I'm spoiling things a little bit, but they definitely did not get several things right. Some they did, and so some they got right, some they did not. I also want to make a distinction between grading, which a lot of people complain about what grade the coin got. I'm not going to do that so much in this video. I'll point a few things out, but it's not so much about that because grading is subjective, and that's what you're paying PCGS, NGC, Annex, whatever grading company you send in a coin, you're paying them for their opinion on the grade of the coin. So I'm not even going to argue those points. What I'm going to argue more in this video is that when it comes to varieties and variety attributions, those things are a lot less subjective. I would say almost not subjective at all. It's very objective, very observable. And so for them to get those things wrong, that is a big deal to me because they're charging almost nearly $20 per coin. And for them to not get those things right, you know, if it was, I don't believe it's with bad intention. I just believe they're either misinformed or not thorough enough. We'll get to those things in a minute. But if anyone else did that with bad intention, that equals fraud. Now, I'm not claiming NGC is fraudulent. That's not the point here. The point is, if you're going to charge for a service, you're not doing a favor. You're actually, you better fulfill that service and do it correctly. And I don't believe they got all these correct. So again, there's a lot to unpack here. So as we go through this, I'd like to play somewhat of a, not a game, but we're going to have a little different dynamic on this unboxing. Last unboxing, you know, it was an unboxing. We go through the grades. They were nearly all perfect. And that's it. It is what it is. On this unboxing, it's going to be very different. So what we're going to do in this video is, and I apologize for the long introduction, but there's a lot to cover. In this video, we're going to ask ourselves the question: did NGC get it right? As we look at each coin, and I'll call it as I see it. And you can agree or disagree in the comments. I would love for you, in fact, to disagree because I would love to hear your opinion. Maybe I'm wrong, and we'll see. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so let's get started here, and I just wanted to briefly say that these were out of order when I got them, and that's basically a non-issue comparatively to everything else that we're going to go through in this video. But I like to be orderly. I like to do things in order. I would expect them to come in order. They did not, and so I resorted them. But here we have the first coin, and this is a 1982 double die reverse number 1. Now we'll call that DDR. That's what DDR stands for. And it's number 1 because there are two different die varieties, double die varieties, in this year, 1982. So this first coin is an MS65. We'll talk about grading itself a little later, but it's a decent coin. And now I will say, well, as we're going to see this next one here, that we have a triple die reverse, and this is an MS66. This is a very nice coin. So in 1982, there's DDR1, there's DDR2, and there's TDR, which is triple die reverse. Now, when I sent these in, I sent in 10 coins that looked very much alike to me. And I had done a lot of investigating, trying to figure out what a triple die looks like exactly. I've asked a whole bunch of Libertad collectors, in fact, some that have had triple dies attributed and that routinely search for them. The best I could get, and I will make, I promise, eventually videos on each of these varieties with close-up pictures and showing what to look for. But the best I could find was that the TDR looks very much the same or very much alike to the DDR1, so that's this one here. They look very much alike, except that the TDR has 3 steps under the date and under the lower inscriptions, let's say, under Mexico and 1982. But in general, they both have this same O. You can see there's several things you can point out, but an obvious one is that O that's kind of smeared to the left. And so that's a DDR1. The triple die, I was told, is very much like a DDR1. It looks the same, except it has 3 tiny little steps under the date. So when I sent these in, I sent in 10 coins that were either DDR1. I couldn't tell the difference, and I didn't know what the difference was. So I sent them in the same slot. And here's another MS65. We'll set this one aside because we're going to come back to this one. This is an important coin for multiple reasons, and we'll get to it in a minute here. But I sent in 10 different ones. I sent them all within the same slot, and in the description, in the variety attribution, or what I thought it was, I put DDR1/TDR, and I would let them decide. Here's an MS66 double die number 1. So double die number 1s are the most common, I would say. They're the ones you come across the most of the double die 1982 varieties. Here's an MS66. Again, a very nice coin. Here we go. Again, there are 10 of these. That's why I'm going through them quickly because honestly, I thought some of these would get a higher grade. There's hardly any scuff marks. There's not much to. Let me see if I can get this a little closer for you to see. Obviously, it's got a few, but I thought some of these might get 67. Knowing it was NGC, NGC is a lot more strict, and we'll get to this later on. But NGC is a lot more strict, especially when it comes to Libertads, than PCGS. PCGS routinely grades a grade, or I should say NGC grades under 1 or 2 grades compared to PCGS. I won't say PCGS grades over because I think, and we'll get to this, but I think PCGS is, in the long run, a little more accurate on the grade. So this one in PCGS, I'm going to say some of these would be at least a 67, maybe even 68, but it is what it is. And so here's another DDR1 MS65. Again, this is the first group of 10 coins that were DDR1s. That's why I'm going a little bit faster. But the question is, so what is the difference? I said I didn't know what the difference was. Well, what is the difference between a DDR1 and a triple die? If they look the same to the eye and you're just looking for those little steps, what's the difference? Well, here's my first claim, and this is going to be, I hope I am proven wrong. Again, I hope I am proven wrong on this, but from what I have seen, and this is my first submission, but no one has been able to show me a clear, distinguishable, observable difference between the DDR1 and the triple die. And so my first claim here, before moving on, is that there is no such thing, and I'll cover this even further. There is no such thing as a triple die reverse. Now you're going to say, what do you mean there's no such thing? Well, what I claim, based on what I've researched, and I hope I'm proven wrong, I hope somebody can show me the difference because I'd love to find out what actually makes a triple die. But if it's only those 3 steps, now there's a big problem with that. That becomes not a die variety attribution. That becomes, maybe it's a variety. I mean, something like the Jefferson nickel that, there's a full step designation, if you can see those full steps. Well, that has to do with more with the strike than with the die variety. That doesn't make this a triple die just because on some you can see 3 steps and on others, I'll get this one, for example, these are both MS66. So that's one issue. They look the same. And not only do they look the same, but that's why it's important. I wanted to send my own coins in that I could observe in hand, not just take other people's word for it, not just take NGC's word for it. But I'm going to show you some images here on the screen. So this is the pictures of these coins. I'm just showing you these images because it's easier to show up than to show on camera. But you see these 2 lines under the end there? Those are die polish lines. And we can see that on both the triple die and the DDR2 at multiple DDR2s. And I should say I got these from the same tube. Now, it wasn't a sealed tube, but I have no reason to believe these weren't from the same original tube. They look the same. And then they both have these same die polish lines. So that is a big argument to say that this is the exact same die. Now, the triple die one does have this line that you can see running diagonally under the O, but that would mean it's a different die. It could just mean that this one the die got scuffed or cleaned or polished after it had already struck these other ones. But the fact that it has these lines, and I'm just pointing out these two lines, not because those are the only die polish lines they share in common. They share all the ones I can find, they share in common. Except for this other one, that I showed you, the diagonal one under the O. But there are multiple other die polish lines. Now that tells us it's the exact same die that struck this triple die as the one that struck this double die here. So, both of these here, and I don't know if you can see it in the video, but they both have the lines under the O. They share the same die polish lines. Now, how is that possible if it's a different die? And if it's a different die, they can't. If it's a different die, they won't share the die polish lines. If it's the same die, how is it possible that one's a triple die and one's a DDR1? Please explain that to me, NGC. Now, I'm asking NGC not because they're going to respond, but because they're responsible. And I believe the burden of proof for these kind of varieties lies with NGC. If you're going to charge someone to attribute a variety, you have to know, they probably claim they do, but you should say what you're looking for and what constitutes a triple die and where you see the tripling. Because I'm sorry, I can see those 3 steps on the double dyed ones as well. Those 3 steps they say to look for under the date and stuff, I can see those on these double die ones. It's, some people say it's extreme doubling. Well, I can see that extreme doubling on some of these 1982s. That's why when I sent them in, I sent all of these in the same category. And I said, you choose which one it is, whether it's a double die one or a triple die. And apparently they just picked 1 out of the 10, which is fine with me if that's really the only triple die one there isn't there. But I've gotten it back. I've checked it over. I've looked it over. I don't find any difference between the triple die and the DDR1. So I hope there is a triple die, but either they made a mistake on this one or there is, I personally come to the conclusion that there's no such thing as a triple die. They may be looking for those 3 steps, and that's a strike issue, not a die variety. So they need to prove, and I'd like someone else to prove to me. If you can prove to me that there is a distinguishable difference, observable difference between the DDR1 and the triple die, I would love to see it, because I have not seen it, and either they messed up on these or they simply basically flip a coin when it comes to DDR1 and triple die. Now let's go forward. Now this is important because I'm not done talking about triple die, but let's keep going here. And what do we have here? Another triple die. But this is a different category and this is a different die altogether. And again, I stopped asking in the video, did NGC get it right? Now, the question is with this one, if we back up a little bit, if we back up to this triple die one, did NGC get it right? Well, maybe, but no, I don't believe so. And they definitely did not get, these 2 coins were struck with the same die. So this is definitely a double die one. Does that mean it's also a triple die? So they got something wrong, and the burden of proof is on them to say what they got wrong. They've got to prove they're not just flipping a coin. I'm sorry, but that's what it comes down to. Then we have this triple die, which is a very different coin. I can show you again. I'll show you pictures on the screen. I'll show you close-ups of the O. This is a very different coin, very different, completely different die. Now, with the triple die, again, I hope to make videos on these and showing exactly what to look for. But on the triple die, sorry, not on the triple die. The mistake on this one, did they get it right? Definitely not, for multiple reasons. One, it's not a triple die. I don't believe it is. I believe it's a DDR2. And they messed up in that sense. But even if it was, they say, how can you have 2 coins that are completely different, both be triple dies from the same die variety? It's not going to happen. Now with this one, you want to look for on the O for onza, and the O has a very odd shape from machine doubling. That is not double die, that's machine doubling. The double die on this coin isn't in onza or the 1, even though they have shelves. There's a shelf under the 1, there's a little shelf under onza, that you can look for, because all the ones I've seen share that. Even though it's machine doubling, they have that all in common. The double die is actually in the doubling, I should say, on the die is actually, you can see it clearly in lay. Lay, and even a little bit in the 999, but in lay you can definitely see in the L and the E, and in the Y you can see doubling. And that's a different kind of doubling than we find on the DDR1, or on the triple die if they're right about this one being a triple die. So again, did they get it right? No, they did not get this right. These, I believe, are double die 2s. So, we have double die 1s that they attribute 1 as a triple die. Then we have double die 2s that they attribute as triple dies. We have double die DDR2s that they come back as triple dies. This, I've got to say, this is very, very frustrating for me, because you expect them to know what they're doing. And my conclusion, I'm getting ahead of myself. My conclusion is, I'm sorry, nothing personal against NGC, but they do not know what they're doing when it comes to Libertad varieties. In fact, I'm going to show you a registry set. Let's do that right now. I'm going to show you, take a look at these registry sets here. This is the number 1 registry set, rank number 1 of Mexican Silver Libertads BU, so one of each date, with varieties. And if we go down here, take a look at the DDR1. That's what we'd expect. It's a bright picture, but that's kind of what you'd expect to see the O look like, okay? And then we look at the DDR2, and again, that's what you'd expect the DDR2 to look like, right? It's a weird looking, odd looking O with a little shelf under here, and the doubling is actually in LEY. And then we go to triple die, and look at that. It's a DDR2. Now, it's a DDR2 or it's the same, basically it's the same one as what they have as a DDR2. So, this is not to criticize whoever this is that has the number 1 registry set. It's an awesome coin. It's an awesome Libertad collection. Congratulations to him. This is on NGC. How can let's compare to number 2 here. Number 2 is Bullion Cat Felix. Great, again, awesome collection. And he doesn't have the picture of the DDR2, but if you look at the triple die, this is different. This looks like the DDR1. So what is actually a DDR? They have to prove what it is. Now, collectors are spending lots of money. Sometimes if they want to be first, or if they want to get a top pop, they're spending hundreds of dollars on these coins. And just because NGC says this is a triple die without any kind of proof, you go to their website, you go to NGC's varieties. I'm going to show that to you here also. These are the Onza varieties. They have a DDR1 with pictures. They have no DDR2 even listed, as a variety, and they don't even have pictures of it. And then they have triple die listed with no pictures. So, I'm sorry, something's not right here. And NGC has, and they've tried, they've put other varieties and they put pictures, and so it lets you at least go in, and they're still not telling you what they look for and say, this is what constitutes a DDR1, this is what, here you see the doubling on the DDR2, but at least if they put up pictures and they say what the attribution is, then you can go in and compare your coin and say, yeah, my coin has, this 1988 with the double dots here, and the everything's doubled down here in the lay 999. Well, you can say my coin has that, so that therefore it's probably a 1988 DDR1. They don't even have DDR2 listed, and the triple die, the TDR, has no images. So I'm sorry, this just stinks. This is so fishy. This is not good. And again, we just looked at the registry set. The plot thickens. How can collectors have the number 1 collection, collection of Libertads, and their triple dies are different than other collectors? One of them is right, one of them is wrong. Maybe they're both wrong. I claim this is a DDR2. I claim this is a DDR1, and there's no such thing as a triple die that I have seen. Now, I hope I'm wrong, and I hope some of you out there can show me. You can contact me through Instagram. You have my email address. You can let me know in the comments. I would love for you to show me clearly what the difference between DDR1 and a triple die. And either way, they're wrong here. NGC is wrong on these, calling these DDR2s a triple die. The worst part of all of this, and I'm going to continue because I've already belabored this a little bit here, and we have multiples, and triple dies are hard. I find them very hard to find in good condition. That's why you see MS64, MS63. Sure, they're beat up, And I knew they were beat up. I just wanted them to get the variety attribution for my own learning experience, to be able to share it here on the channel and share it with you all. So I sent in multiple 6, I believe, double die 2s, and I even put that on the forum, DDR2. I've compared these to a lot of other collectors and other ones I've seen. I believe these are DDR2s, and they all came back. Not a single one came back DDR2. They all came back triple die. The worst thing is that I contacted when the grades and the variety attributions went live online. You can check these things. I contacted NGC. I called customer service. I asked them, if they would take another look, and I even sent them. I said, "Hey, I sent you an email." And the young lady I spoke to on the phone checked the email. She found it. She said, "Okay, I'm going to show this to one of the graders, and they'll review it." Because I sent a PDF, not only of these, but some of the 89s, which we'll get to in a minute. And I pointed out, clearly with high quality images that I had taken myself before sending them in, I pointed out, this is what I believe you got wrong. I believe this is what makes a DDR2. This is what I wish they would do with us collectors. I did with them. And supposedly they reviewed it and they still came back like that. So we've got a major problem here. We have DDR1. Again, this is a big deal because I don't see other collectors talking about this. So either they have not observed this, and it's not like it doesn't happen because I just showed you the top 2 registry sets, and there's an issue in both sets. Either both guys have the wrong coin or one guy has the wrong coin or something, and that's not on them. Again, that's not a critique of their registry set. That's on NGC because they're certifying it. They're the ones we're paying $18, nearly $20 per coin. And what are we paying them for? Just to flip a coin and say, "Oh yeah, we think this is this," without any kind of proof, any kind of evidence. So there's an issue here. So we have triple die versus triple die. Sorry, I've got them kind of mixed up here now, but basically we have triple die versus triple die, which are very different. They can't both be triple dies. We have double die 1 versus triple die, which are the same, struck from the same die. So how can they be? You can't be both. They can't both be right. And then we have DDR2 versus triple die, because all the DDR2s I sent in came back triple die. So I'm sorry, but this is a mess. And again, my conclusion is that there is no such thing as a triple die. Now, I hope I am proven wrong. Again, I want to repeat that. I'm not trying to make a point that I'm not willing to change my opinion on. But based on these results, based on a lot of other people I've asked, they very kindly tried to help me out in figuring out what a triple die is. And I'm sorry, I have not gotten any conclusive evidence to say that there is any such thing as a triple die. I believe NGC just created the slot based on seeing those 3 steps, but it's actually just a DDR1. Either that or all DDR1s are triple dies, but I don't believe that's the case either. And they misattributed my DDR2s as triple die. So, I'm sorry, I'm pretty upset about this because it's not just like, some obscure coin that nobody knows about and NGC just happened to make a mistake. I sent them an email. I called them. They said they were going to review it and nothing changed, which means what? Either they don't care, either they looked it over and like, "No, we're sure that's what it is. I'm sorry, you're wrong." Or they didn't care that they were wrong. They're like, "Well, it is what it is. We don't know this guy. We don't care what he thinks. And we're just going to send him that. We're going to take his money and not do our job," basically. Now, here, this is a different topic. Did NGC get this right? Yes and no. I mean, yes, it is. I'm not going to argue that its details and obverse damage, I knew it was pretty beat up. Again, this is my first submission. I'm learning things, and it was a good learning experience. Was it a good idea to send this in? No, it was not. Because if I had known, obviously, that I was going to come back obverse damage, I would have not sent it in. But there are more issues at play here. Now, again, what I'm looking for from grading companies is consistency. And NGC is inconsistent. As we've already seen, they've been inconsistent on these grades. Again, inconsistency. Where's the inconsistency? They say obverse is damaged. Well, they're obviously referring to this side because this is the only side that's damaged. And you can see damage here on the robes. I don't know how well that shows up on video. Maybe I can get some images. This side is perfectly fine. This is the obverse. This is the obverse, and they say obverse damaged. No consistency. These, as we saw, these all say triple die, double die, reverse. They're all reverse. Why? Because this is the reverse of the Libertad. So this they got right. These are reverse. So why do they say obverse damage? It's a small thing. Yes, it's a small thing. It's not a big deal. But again, inconsistency. And you want consistency. You want consistency on grades. You want consistency on varieties. You want consistency on obverse, reverse. Like small things, you want consistency. At least I do. And I don't think it's too much to ask. So they got this wrong in the sense that, no, it's not obverse damage. It's reverse damage. And another thing, I did pay, this one went among the group of DDR2s, and it is a DDR2. It has all the characteristics of a DDR2. Now, again, I'm new to this. Maybe some of you out there might say, well, NGC doesn't grade a coin that comes back in details grade. Well, I'm not asking for a grade. That's two separate things. I paid them for a grade, and I also paid them for a variety attribution. Now, it's not a big deal. I'm not going to harp on this, but from my point of view, I'm paying them for two separate things. And so one thing is grading. They might say, no, it's damaged. We can't grade it. Okay, you can still see what variety it is. I can see what variety it is. I can't tell what grade it is. That's what I'm paying you for. You don't want to grade it because details, it's damaged. I get that. That's on me. No problem. I'm not arguing that at all. But I also paid you. It's two different payments. They're separate. And I also paid you to tell me what die variety this is. Don't tell me you can't tell me what die variety it is. So you can still say UNC details obverse damage DDR2, right? I mean, yeah. So now I'm going to go back to these a little bit. I keep coming back to these, but this is a big deal. I'll tell you why. All of these that I sent in are for sale. I'm selling all of these. And some grades came back very nice, as we'll see. We'll see some of the nicer ones. Although even these, the first group, the triple dies, the double die ones, the DDR ones came back MS66. And that's a nice grade, This triple die MS66 is a nice grade. That's for NGC, it's not, these would probably be PCGS, these would probably be 67, 68s even. They're very, very pretty coins. But my question is, on these, for example, on all these triple dies, my question is, when I go to sell, what would you do? Do you just list it? For example, say I list it on eBay. What do I list this as? Do I list this as a triple die reverse MS65, even though I know it's not a triple die reverse 65? Now, do I list it as a triple die reverse 65 and say, but it's really a DDR2? Or do I list it as a DDR2 and say NGC just misattributed a triple die? I'm not saying I'm going to hide anything from the buyer. I'll lay it all out for them. But as a buyer, if I was buying this coin, I wanted this for my collection. I wanted this for my registry set, which is worse because you can't stick in a triple die in your registry set. I don't have one, but I don't think you can stick it in as a DDR2 if it comes back on NGC as a triple die. So, the one problem is, what am I supposed to do when I go to sell? Another problem is, as a buyer, if I were looking to buy one of these, I'm sorry, I would kind of tell the seller, well, you know what, get it attributed correctly before I buy it from you. I'm not going to buy a triple die when it's a double die too. And I'm not going to buy a DDR2 when it's a triple die. And I'm not going to, you want the slab to say what it actually is. I've seen sellers write or put a little sticky note on their slab for 1987s, for example. They say, oh, we didn't get it attributed as a DDR, but this one is a DDR. Well, that's obvious. You can see it, whether it is or not. But still, I'm not going to pay extra for that because you should pay the extra to get the variety attributed. Maybe they did. Maybe NGC got it wrong, like in this case. But again, that puts me in a bind. Like, what am I supposed to do when I go to sell? Just sell it as a triple die and then let somebody buy it and think that they're sticking it in their registry as a triple die when they don't in fact have a triple die. And I can let them all know, I can let them know this is actually a double die, but it's a triple die. Well, are they going to believe me or are they going to believe NGC? It's just a mess. And that all comes back to NGC not doing their job. And that's why I'm sorry, I'm just very, very bothered by this because I would expect more from a company this big. And for all those who think I'm being too harsh on NGC, let me just say two things. One, they're not doing me a favor by putting the variety on the slab. I'm sorry, they're not doing me a favor. They're doing a job. They're doing a service that I already am paying them for nearly $20 a coin. So I have every right to be bothered if they're not doing their job and if it looks like they're just basically flipping a coin or they don't know what they're doing or they're not being thorough. I'm not assigning attributing bad intent on their part, but I am definitely saying they don't know what they're doing and they're being sloppy at best when they're doing that. So that's one. So yes, I have somewhat of a right to be bothered by this because I paid them to do their job and they're not doing their job. And two, I called them and I went to the extra work of putting together a short PDF. It wasn't a long read with images, high resolution images, circling and pointing out exactly where you see the doubling and what I'm looking for in all this. Supposedly they checked it and absolutely nothing changed. And that also bothers me because they're wrong. They're called out on it and they're like, no, we don't care. We're just sticking to what we had said. So I'm sorry, I don't feel bad being harsh on NGC here. Let's go forward. Let's keep going. Here we have a 1988. Now, this is another group of several coins that I sent in with a double die reverse, and this is the DDR number 2. Now, did NGC get this right? Yes, they did get this right, surprisingly, because oddly enough, this is a much harder variety to observe, to even see, and they got this right. So they're getting more obvious things wrong. And this one, in fact, if you look at the census, this is a top pop coin, which is great. I'm happy about that. MS67 top pop DDR2. There are only 11 coins in this grade. I'm not sure exactly on its value. I'll have to investigate that. This will be for sale. I am selling this coin. I'm selling all of these, and I didn't send in the very best of my collection. I held back. If I had, I kind of sorted them in order, and then I kept the top one from each variety and each year. So I assume that I have at least a 67, if not a 68 of the same variety. But it's a very nice coin. Now, as far as grade is concerned, they graded it a 67. Don't ask me why. If I compare it to other, which I will, I'll compare it to other 66. Some of the 66 look nicer than this one, but it's not to say it's an ugly coin. But this is a top pop coin. Did NGC get it right? Yes. This is a DDR2. I was surprised they got it right, because if they got more obvious ones wrong, this one's harder to identify. And I think it'd be an easier one to make a mistake on, but they didn't. I sent in 4 of these, and they all came back correctly. DDR number 2s, 1988s. And this is the MS67, again, is a top pop coin. Only 11 of them out there, so I'm very happy with that. They didn't get everything wrong here. Just most everything wrong. This is a double die again, so MS65. So I got 2 65s, 1 66, which is this one here, and 167. And again, if these were PCGS, I would assume, I don't think PCGS recognizes this variety, so it would not be a variety, but I think they would get higher grades. Some of these are really, really pretty. In fact, I would argue some of the 60, this 66 might be even a little prettier than the 67, but whatever. I'm not really going to argue grades. That's not what this video is about. But again, it comes back to consistency. Now, this one, did NGC get this right? This is a 1988 DDR1. Did they get it right? Yes, I believe they did. In fact, I believe they did me somewhat of a favor on this one. This is an MS64. The DDR1 is one of the tougher coins to find. And I don't know if you can see that. It's not, the reason I sent it in was because I was going to sell it and I wanted it to be attributed. And depending on the lighting, like there, for example, you can see it's got, and maybe you can see, there you go, maybe a little bit of the reflection there. It has somewhat of a proof-like quality to it. So I sent it in, with knowing it was the slimmest of chances that it would get a proof-like attribution. It did not. You can see on this side too. It's got some the fields are somewhat reflective, and but I did not expect. I say they did me a favor because I did not expect a 64 on this. Honestly, it looks pretty beat up, and it's kind of dark. And again, I think part of that is because it does have proof-like, somewhat proof-like at least qualities to it. And so it looks darker, and I honestly expected it to come back. I wouldn't have been surprised if it was, even AU. I don't know, 62, 63. 64 is actually not a bad grade. Now, obviously, I was hoping upon hope that it would be proof-like because there's only one double die one proof-like. And I believe, I'd like to think that if this was in higher grade, if this was a 66, a 67, a 68, it might have gotten proof-like, because as coins get the wear on them, it wears down those reflective fields, and so they're not as reflective. But it's got, you can kind of see the picture, and if you compare it to another coin here, for example, you can see the higher contrast is not a ton, but it does have a higher contrast in the fields. They're darker. They're not as lustrous, and they're more reflective. You can see that there. So I'm happy about this one. It's a double die number 1, which are quite expensive, hard to find. I'll be selling this one. But I was hoping, the reason I sent it in is I knew it wasn't going to come back a top grade. In fact, I expected it to come back much less. But I was hoping for a proof-like. But from everything I've heard from other collectors as well, NGC has gotten much tougher on proof-like designations as well. Attributing coins as proof-like is just much tougher than it used to be, apparently. And here we go into the last group of, sorry, not the last group. These are 1989s. Now, did NGC get this right? No, they did not get this right. And this is one of the ones that pains me the most, because I know for a fact, this is not like, well, maybe I'm misinformed. No, I know for a fact this is a double die. All 3. I sent 3 of these in. They all came back MS66. This is somewhat, I wouldn't say key date, but somewhat of a sought after date, 1989. And they're a little more sought after, obviously, if they have the double die designation, which these are double die coins. And I knew this, and I have other 1989s, and I only sent in 3 nice double die coins, wanting them to come back with the double die designation. Again, these are one of the ones that I called about. I talked to customer service. I sent an email with a PDF clearly pointing out where the doubling was. Now, if they're going to say, no, this is not a double, this is not what we have on file, this is not a DDR1, well, then it's got to be DDR2. It's a new double die variety, but it is double die. I have no doubt in my mind that it's a double die. And so you can't have it both ways. You can't say, NGC can't say, no, that's not what we have on file. It's not a double die 1. Well, then if it's not, it's still a double die. And I sent in 3 coins. That should be enough to compare all 3 and see, yes, they all have the same doubling. These are DDR2. Now, they're not. I believe they're DDR1, and they just, again, completely... I'm sorry, but the word that keeps coming to mind is incompetence. This is incompetence. How can you be charging people for a service that you don't provide, or a service you claim to provide and do not do it correctly? That's how does that not bother them? That bothers me. I'm sorry, it bothers me that you're charging me nearly $20 per coin and you can't do your job properly and attribute these. So again, these NGC got all 3 of these wrong. It's a big deal to me. Now, I understand it's not as big deal to my viewers, but just know that just because you find a double die, for example, in this case, a 1989 double die, you find it and send it in, doesn't mean you're going to get it attributed. So it's not like I gave them fair warning. It's not like, they sent these back, they made an honest mistake and I could send them back. No. And I have several friends have suggested I send them back, get them reevaluated, hope for a different grader and someone that will agree with me and say, no, you know what, we messed up. This is an MS69. Not MS69. This is a double die reverse, number 1. Now, my problem with that is, I have several problems with that. One, I already contacted them and already had them check it, and they already double checked it, and they still stuck to their guns and said, no, this is not a double die. So I've already done that to some extent. Now, if I sent them back, if they happen to agree with me, good. They probably won't charge me. They'll change the label and they'll send them back to me. Great. But if they don't, if they insist, and I'm sorry, I've lost faith in their ability and capability to get it right. So I'm not going to trust them to get it right if I send them back. And if I send them back and they still don't agree with me, I can't, I'm spending a lot more money to have them checked. They'll charge me again, right? So then I'll have way too much money in these coins. And if I go to resell them, I'm not going to, I'm not even going to looking to break even if I just keep putting money into these and they still keep coming back. Say I sent these in again and spent another $40 on getting them reevaluated. That's just not feasible for me. So that's why it bugs me so much, because the collector is the one that's got everything to lose. NGC has nothing to lose. What do they have to lose out of this? Nothing. This small YouTube channel is not going to damage I'm not looking to damage their reputation anyway, but they're not concerned about that anyway. So I'm just making this video not for NGC. I'm making it for you guys, for my viewers and you collectors out there who collect Libertads, who are looking for different varieties and who want to get them attributed. Just know, it's a coin toss. You might get it attributed, you might not get it attributed, and it is what it is. Now, here we come to the last group. Thank you for bearing with me. I know there's a long video, but I said there was a lot to cover, and there is a lot to cover. These are my last group, and these are some of the ones that I say that, wow, I mean, how is this a 66? Let me give you an example. Now, I know it's a different date, and sure, different dates can different dates can look differently, but I'm sorry, it's not a different date. It's a different variety, but they're both 88s, you know. See the coin on the right and the coin on the left? This is a 67, and this is a top pop coin for this variety. And this is a 66 on the left. And this one's just gorgeous. Now, I'm going to link to a video on T the Silver Stacker's channel. He just did it maybe about a week ago. He submitted from the same roll, 1985 Libertads from the same roll, submitted both to NGC and PCGS. And if I recall correctly, most of the NGCs came back 65, 66, and most or all of the PCGS came back 67, 68. Same roll, and a lot of collectors have been saying this. NGC is a lot more strict on especially Libertad grading. I don't know, they're American coins and everything. I don't know what the disparity is there, but there's a big disparity, big difference between NGC and PCGS. Now, I used to think that was good, you know, that was a positive for NGC. I'm not so sure now. I think NGC is, you know, sure, they're trying to be strict. They're trying to maybe have tighter standards or whatever. But if you're telling me, I mean, look at this coin. If you're telling me there are 4 more grades between this coin, I mean, look at both sides. Amazing luster, minimal, very minimal scuff marks. You can see it there. This is what a beautiful, beautiful coin. If you're telling me there are 4 grades between this one and a perfect coin, really? How can you get 4 grades between this 66 and an MS70? You know, so at some point, if you can't tell the difference between a 67 and a 68 or a 69 and a 70, I think the closest ones, if there are any two that are going to be close, should be a 69 and a 70, you know, because maybe a coin is nearly perfect. It's just got this one tiny little thing. Okay. You know, maybe it's nearly 70. And so one tiny little thing, it bumps down to 69. But, you know, in this case, if you can't tell the difference between a 68 and a 69 or a 66 and a 67 or a 67 and a 68, then it's kind of pointless and kind of meaningless. And again, we're coming back to coin flip. You know, what do you think this is? Well, we'll flip a coin and say it's a 66. You're telling me there's still, there's a coin like this, you know, can still be a 67 and then can still be a 68. And there's still a better coin that could be a 69. And there's still a better coin that could be a 70. So I told you I wasn't going to harp on grading, but I think that's why I've come to the conclusion after seeing these and seeing others. Yes, I think maybe PCGS tends to be a little more lenient and more things get by. Now, when it comes to toning, again, I don't want to go off onto a whole bunch of little bunny trails. When it comes to toning on Libertads, I think PCGS will grade just about any color under the sun. And, you know, just about any artificial toning out there, and they'll call it natural toning. And PCGS is a lot more strict when it comes to Libertads and toning. They might go to the other extreme, and sometimes they'll say something's artificial toning when it's actually, you know, it looks great, you know, and it looks natural toning. So, again, we're paying them for their opinion, but I think sometimes, and like on this Libertad, I'm sure this would be a 68 in PCGS. Just there's no question in my mind, this is a 68 at least on PCGS. I was hoping this would be a 67. Now on the 88s, there just to give you an example here and to prove what I'm telling you on these 1988s, there are only 3 MS68 1988 Libertads at NGC, but there are only 3 MS68 at NGC. Guess how many there are MS68s at PCGS? 57. It's not even close. There are 57 MS68s at PCGS, and then there are 2 MS69s at PCGS. So I wouldn't be surprised if this came back a 69 from PCGS, and it's a 66 here. So, you know, take what you will from this, but it does make a big difference sending to PCGS or NGC. And if you haven't checked out that video from T the Silver Stacker, again, I'll leave a link to it. Be sure and check that out, because those are coins from the same roll, sent some to PCGS, some to NGC, and there's at least 1, sometimes 2 grade difference. But again, I can't point this out enough. If these coins, some of these are very, very beautiful coins. If you're telling me that this is a 66 and there's still 4 more grades before getting a perfect coin, then I'd love to see those 4 more grades, because you can't get much better than this. I'm sorry, you can't. Some of these are very, very, very beautiful coins with minimal contact marks. Now, also, this is something else. I know standards change. I know graders change even within the same company. And if you look at some registry sets and you look at different coins, or you see coins listed on eBay and it says it's a 66, and you see pictures and you're like, that's got so many scuff marks, Or you see a 68, and you're like, how on earth is that I have a 66 like this one? I have a 66 that's better than that 68 within NGC. So I know over the years standard changed, and NGC is probably at a point where they are trying to be extremely strict on Libertads for whatever reason. But I think in doing so, you're also doing a disservice. Be as strict as you want. I don't have a problem with being strict, but you've got to be consistent, and you're doing a disservice to grading in the community in general. Look at this. This is a 67. And this is sort of what I was talking about. Like, okay, this is a 67. How is this better than some of these that I showed, like this one here? I would argue the 66 looks better than the 67. And this, again, keep in mind that these aren't different submissions from different years. I mean, I sent one in last year and this one I just sent in, and they can't. No, I'm not comparing oranges to apples. This is apples to apples. Same submission. So presumably the same graders that saw this coin. And for whatever reason, they're like, yeah, this is a 67. And this guy over here is a 66. Okay. Fine, whatever. Honestly, I think I'm fine with a 67 here. Honestly, I just don't see why these didn't get 67. Some of them are even prettier in my view than this 67. So some people say, well, they're protecting the higher grades. Well, that's possible. As I said, there are only 3 68s. So imagine if somebody gets another 68 graded. That's a big deal. So the graders are probably even more even tighter, even more strict on a coin that might get top pop, And then here, let me see, was this 66? Yeah, that was a 66, which again, that 66 wasn't as bright and as nice as the other 66. So I said I wasn't going to harp on grading, but this is a 65, and it's got some cool toning on the back here. I thought maybe the toning itself would bump it up. It's got, I don't know what they call this, tape toning or not album toning. What it is it had some sort of, it was probably stuck to something. I don't know. It had something on it to where it just toned around the eagle, and the center is kind of original. And it's a pretty kind of purplish toning. I would expect these, let me see if I can get it closer. I would expect these to bring somewhat of a premium above the grade itself, because it's got some pleasant toning on both sides. And even though it's a 65, I would expect it to bring a slight premium just based on the toning. And here's the last one, also with very nice toning. And this one is even prettier. It's got like this dark purple tone to it, and kind of that square. You see that square where it's not toned and then it's all toned around. That's cool. I like that. And it's got kind of a nice goldish toning on this side. This came back 66 as well. So, wow, I told you there was a lot to cover. I told you there was a lot of information, and I told you I was going to make some claims, and some of those claims are, NGC doesn't really know what they're doing when it comes to Libertad varieties, especially these. They got the 89s wrong. They got the triple dyes wrong. They claimed 2 different dye varieties are both triple dyes, which is wrong. And this is all in one submission. They got about a tenth of my submission wrong. They got about 10 coins at least, maybe more. They got a third of this one submission from one guy wrong. And so, how much more? It can't be an isolated incident. And again, I called them, I wrote, I pointed out, I laid it out for them. What really gets to me and what really bugs me is that, yes, I'm paying them for a service. And if you can't do that service, then don't offer that service. Now, I'm glad they offer variety designations. I love varieties, variety attributions. But you've got to know what you're doing. If you're offering, if somebody's paying you money, which I am, and I paid them money to do that, you can't just be kind of flippant about it and be like, well, yeah, it is, well, sort of, well, we sort of, yeah, sometimes it's this, sometimes it's a triple die, sometimes a DDR1, sometimes it's a DDR2. We don't really know. We just flip a coin and that we go based on that, you know? So again, if you think I'm being too harsh on NGC, if you think I'm mistaken on my calls, on my judgment calls here, if you think I don't know what I'm talking about as far as the varieties, that's fair. I'd be happy. I'm willing, I'm open-minded on this. I'm willing to be corrected, and let me know in the comments if you agree or you disagree. Let me know, if I'm just not seeing what a triple die is, and show me, prove it to me. I would love for you to prove it to me. I have asked top collectors, top Libertad collectors, people that get these things graded. And again, I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but it's my claim at this point, with all the research I've done and everything I've seen and getting my own coins back and the coins that I can observe for myself, I don't believe there's any such thing as a triple die. At least I have not seen a triple die to date. And I've seen 2 different die varieties that they sent back to me that they claim are triple dies, and neither one is a triple die. I believe one to be a DDR1 and another one a DDR2. And they messed that up as well. And as far as the grading, I mean, just so you're aware that I think NGC is a lot more strict, and that's fine. If you're an NGC collector and you have an NGC registered set, well, maybe they're comparatively both. If all your Libertads are NGC, well, maybe the grades are comparable across all your coins. But just know that, I believe like some of these 88, 66 in here that I showed, I'm going to say those are 68, possibly even a 69. Like there's very, very, take a look at this one again. This is one of those that I say there's hardly, those are bright lights and all, but I mean, there's very minimal, extremely minimal contact, scuff marks, anything. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful coin with great luster. It's a very white coin. And to be a 66, again, it's like, that's a problem if you're saying there's still a 67 and still a 68 and still a 69 and still a 70. Yeah, that's not my issue is they're not being consistent. My issue is that they're charging you for a service that they're not doing. My issue is that they're attributing a variety which I believe doesn't exist, or at least they have the burden of proof to prove that it exists, and what they're not just charging people for a variety that doesn't exist. They haven't updated their varieties on their own website. They get their obverse reverse things wrong. Even when it's a damaged coin, I'm going through all the issues I have just as a summary here. And this is just one submission. They say obverse damage when it's the reverse, and they say reverse double die when it is the reverse, but a lot of inconsistencies. I don't see why. Again, Libertads are popular. There's a large collector base. They get a lot of submissions for Libertads. This should be something that they have just down pat. They know exactly what they're looking for. They know exactly what a DDR1 looks like. They know exactly what a DDR2 looks like. They know exactly how to tell it apart from those two, tell it apart from a triple die. They know, but apparently they don't. They don't. Even the 1989 double die, they got the 1988 double dies, which are harder to see, in my opinion, than the 1989s, and they even got the 1989s wrong. So this was a shocker to me, honestly. I thought they would know what they were doing when I sent them in. Apparently, they do not really know what they're doing. I don't believe this is just an isolated event, and I believe I gave them fair warning before even making this video. Not that this video is for them and that they'll even care or even watch it. But for you collectors out there that collect Libertad varieties, I believe this is important information to know. We looked again, going back, we looked at the top 2 registry sets, and we could keep looking at more. You'll probably find that some triple dies have one die variety and some triple dies are another die variety. In fact, that just proves they don't know what they're talking about. And then the DDR1s and triple dies that I have, I sent them in together. It's the same graders looking at it, and they said, yep, this is a triple die, and nope, this is a DDR1. And they both have the same die polish lines. Please explain that to me. How can they have the same die polish line, be from the exact same die, and one is a triple die and one is a DDR1? So either they're not looking at these things, either they don't care about these things, either they're pointed out and they just don't want to correct them. But that's that's unacceptable from coming from a large company like NGC who attributes these varieties. I love that they attribute varieties. I like NGC. I recognize this is just a small part of their business, but they need to get it right. If you're going to take $20, nearly $20 per coin, just take my money and then just give me back whatever you want without knowing what you're talking about. I'm sorry. If you had if they have bad intent, that's fraud. Now, I'm not going to say it's fraud because they don't have bad intent, I don't believe. I think they're just somewhat incompetent in this area, not in grading. Again, that's two different things. I pay them for their opinion on their grade. They give me back their opinion. I may not agree with it. It is what it is. But if I pay them for a variety attribution, they had better get the variety attribution because that's what I'm paying them to do. And if they get it wrong, that's on them. So let me know in the comments below what you think. I hope you enjoyed this video. It's a long video, but I told you there's a lot to unpack. Again, they got some right, they got some wrong, but let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are. Contact me if you have more information on these varieties, and thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.